Flipping it up and out. Bogues! A recent block by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get Rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues, another episode to get through NBA, NBL, and all things basketball. This is 84, Pro. We're at 84, almost at 100. How goes it in Dallas? Straight from a workout onto the pod, Pro. Dedication.
Yeah. Finally, it took like 4 years after getting shit canned by the Mavs, but finally got some people that actually want me to work them out. So, can't really say much about their intelligence level about the people in Dallas, but what are you going to do?
No, it's a good city. I enjoyed my time in Dallas. A very, very nice place to live.
Oh, no, it's fantastic.
But without further ado, let's get rolling into our team of the weeks, Pro. I'll let you start off. Who you got this week?
I've got Houston Elite AU. I got them as my team of the week. I mean...
No way. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Are you serious?
Yeah. Well, dude, they got 2 wins. They had 2 wins this week.
That is a big week. That's a big week for
They
Houston.
only have 5 for the week. Look, they're an awful team, and they're not really going anywhere. But I gotta give them some props. They got
bit of love.
Yeah.
Bit of love.
A little bit of love. I mean, they've been so bad, and they win. They beat Oklahoma City 118-105. They beat Atlanta before that on the Friday 128-122. Lost to Golden State on last Sunday 127-120. They go 2-1 for the week. I mean, look, Bogues, like it's we say it all the time about Houston. They've got too many young guys. They got a lot of young talent. That's the only way you're going to get good, but just so much young talent, especially in that backcourt with Porter Jr. and Green. I don't trust those 2 guys. They're talented. They could score, but they dribble the hell out of the ball, and it's just ISO, and really, I like the I think he's a Turkish kid, Sengun, the big.
He's tough. He's good.
Yeah, he's a little bit of like a Sabonis type who knows how to play and can back you down.
I would love the Warriors to make a move for him. A friend of mine put this on my plate, and I agree. To throw in Wiseman and something for Sengun and a pick, I think would be a great deal for the Warriors because he would fit their system so well. Because he can pass the shit out of it. All right, he's getting points and rebounds. He can pass, like really good vision. Yeah. He'd be perfect in that system. I probably think Houston know what they have, but I wonder if Houston bite on that one for Wiseman. They get a long athlete to put next to those other guys.
Yeah, obviously Golden State wouldn't give up one of their better players for him. I don't think Wiseman. Maybe you throw in the other kid too, the kid who can shoot. Yeah, maybe you throw those 2 guys in. Because Sengun's really good, as you know. I mean,
he's really good.
He's sort of like it's like probably like a more talented Zaza Pachulia, like smart. Well, Zaza wasn't really a passer like that, but like.
Oh no, he's like Sabonis is
like
better.
Right.
What are you doing, bro? Sabonis is a great comparison, and he just fits so well because he can pass. He doesn't need to score. He can score if you need him to. I just feel like that'd be something to look on. But yeah, Houston's fair. I mean, it's a fair one. One thing about them, the last 6, they haven't been getting blown out. So even in their losses, you circle back to their last blowout was against the Clippers. They lost by 16 on November 14. Since then, every one of their games has been in single digits, whether they won or lost. So there is a bit of improvement there, and at least they're giving a bit better effort even in their losses. Because early on, it was a shit show. Early on, when they were out of games early, they'll toast, and they've grinded out some wins.
They got to get older, like on their bench. They got to get older guys, not older, but they got to get like the Eric Gordons of the world. You got a couple of those guys, more vets, more just beef that up. I mean, look, you're gonna have to take your growing pains. Orlando did it for a while. I mean, they do have talent. I mean, if you just look in individually, Green, Sengun, Jabari Smith, even though he's not having a great year yet, like. You throw that talent in, Porter Jr., you throw those guys in there, like those 4 guys, it's a talented group. Not enough to win games in the NBA yet, but if you add you add some vets, you let those guys sort of get it. See, I think Jalen Green to me, he's probably the perfect backup, like the perfect like Jordan Clarkson type player that could get you like 30 off the bench, but you probably don't want to start him, in my opinion. But like they got all this talent, but it's not Hall of Fame talent where it was like Oklahoma City when they had Durant and those guys, but they have good young players. They just got to learn some things. But look, if they didn't win 2 games last week, I would have never given it to them. I don't care what. I mean, they're bad, but I mean, they have 5 wins in the first 20 and two this week. I got to give Houston AAU Select a little bit of love.
That's fair. That's fair enough. And they're young, so we don't expect them to win games right now. And they're in the same kind of. They're probably 2 years behind where OKC was. So they're kind of going to be an OKC in a couple of years where hopefully they can get a bit more wins. And OKC has been playing better, so we'll see how that goes. This week, Pro, my team of the week for the 3rd time that you listeners weren't here because we've edited out all my mess ups. The Phoenix Suns, Pro. 4 straight wins. The only reason they got my team of the week is they're the only undefeated team of the week. Every other team, just inconsistent week and a very hard week for team of the week, in my opinion. A lot of teams went 2-1, 1-2, 1-1. But they rolled off 4 straight wins. Chris Paul's not in the lineup, so a big out for them. They beat the Utah Jazz, they beat the Detroit Pistons, the Lakers, and the Knicks. So look, Lakers are playing better. Detroit up and down, they're not that good. Utah, I think, are pretty good, and New York aren't that good. So not a lot to go by with the 4 wins, but they are playing pretty well. And it's just it was really tough to pick for me and for Pro. You went with the Houston Rockets, so that shows you.
That's pretty fucking bad.
Not in a bad way, but if Houston Rockets are winning team of the week for any week on this podcast, it's been a pretty bad week. So we won't go too in-depth in the numbers. We know the Suns are doing well. The Suns I think they're currently in first place in the Western Conference, mind you, Pro. So they've surged their way up at 13-6. Denver now in second, so they're playing well as well. They're a notable mention, but they've won 2 straight now, but they lost 1 earlier in the week. The West is wide open, so it's been fun to watch. But let's move on to my team of the horrendous week, very weak. I'm going with your guys, Pro, the Dallas Mavericks. They are not playing great basketball right now, and there's a game on as we speak, so it looks like it's going to be over. It's 115-97 with 8 minutes left. I assume that's going to be a loss in Milwaukee, and I don't think they're coming back there, but you never know. Could be wrong. Anyway, so that's going to put them on their 4th straight loss of the week. What's concerning here, Pro, is their strength of schedule. I know we touched on this a little bit. They're on the bottom half of the league, strength of schedule-wise. They're 17th in the league, so they have not played the best. They've had a very kind of favourable schedule early on, Pro, and they're not winning games. They just they're struggling to put it together. They're very inconsistent. We know we've talking about from the start of the season on this podcast about how great Luka is, but we both had concerns and still have concerns that he's probably doing too much. That he is their MVP, but you look at Giannis. I feel like he's an MVP candidate again. Joel Embiid, MVP candidate again. They have, when healthy, those teams have some horses where they can have bad nights and win. Dallas, Luka has a bad night, they lose, and Luka has great nights, they still lose. They're 9-9. They're going to move on to 9-10 after this loss to Milwaukee. I think it's Luka or nothing, and it's concerning considering their schedule that's going to unfold here after the new year, where they're going to play much tougher teams. They might be in a play-in the way they're going. It is early still. I get that, but they're below 500 for the first time in a long time. And you look at Golden State above them; they're surging. All right, Utah Jazz are kind of falling, but they've got some good teams above them. So I still think they'll be in the 7. They might be in a play-in though, Pro. I don't know what your thoughts are, but they just haven't looked as good and as sharp as they were last season.
Bogues, Boston sort of had the same deal last year, but they have a franchise player in Tatum and Brown, who's sort of that borderline franchise guy, all-star type, and they got a bunch of good vets that could really step up and do their thing, Al Horford and things. And then they made that trade, that small trade that ended up being big, where they got a couple of guys. They got rid of Schroeder and they brought in a couple of pieces, and they went on their title run or their championship, making the championship run. I don't think Dallas has that in them just because they don't have that other horse with them. Like Like this, beginning of the year, we talked about him. I thought Spencer Dinwiddie's just too inconsistent. Sometimes he's unbelievable. Sometimes he's just very average. And they haven't had that other player to really step up to take that pressure off of Luka. Look, Jalen Brunson, did an unbelievable job for him last year. And look, he's got his weaknesses like every player in the league does, but like he fit because he could get Luka off the ball. He could run that second unit. He could score. He's smart. He could do different things. They just don't have that other cerebral player, in my opinion, that's consistent. Dinwiddie's talented, but he's not consistent. Dorian Finney-Smith can only do so much offensively. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been a disaster as far as consistencies goes.
Pro, what's happened with Hardaway Jr.? Like, I thought he would be a good fit off the bench for him, just a gunner. He's regressed massively. I know he had a bad injury. He's coming back from injury. Maybe he's still battling that, but He looks like a shell of himself, man. He does not look like anything like what they traded for.
The biggest question, and again, I get blacked out of 98% of the Mavericks games, so I got to watch them like 2 days later on the League Pass. But like NBA Twitter in the Dallas area, the question is like Christian Wood's 17-8, but he never closes games. And people are saying, what's going on? They question Jason Kidd's coaching. I don't question Jason's coaching because of the fact that Christian Wood isn't the smartest of guys. You can't really play too many bigs anyway. And if you're going to play a big, late in games, he's got to be smart and he's got to be sort of locked into things. And that's not Christian's deal, unfortunately. Like, Christian's a good player that I would play in the first 3 quarters, but I would really be leery of playing him late game. And that's been just a question of why he's not closing. And I don't know why. I just sort of go with my intel and what my eyes tell me going, throughout his whole career. But Bogues, they just don't have enough. I mean, going into the year, I thought they could have been a borderline finals team if things went right, just because of Luka and putting those other players in good positions to be successful. But if they're not going to get, if they're not going to get consistent play out of Hardaway or somebody else, Bullock's never really been a guy. He's been a spot up shooter. He's never been a guy that's being a double digit guy or anything. But they just don't have enough. Brunson was what he was. He was a guy who can get you 18, 19 consistently, smart, second unit. And I'll tell you what, like, we don't talk enough about he's done a great job in year 2 is Josh Green. He went from
He's played real well.
You can't put him in a game last year into somebody you could play 20 minutes a night. He can give you energy. He's not knocking the ball. He's not Patty Mills by any stretch of the imagination, but he makes a 3 once in a while. And they've done a great job with him, with his development. But yeah, I just don't think they have enough. They've been underwhelming. I mean, it is early, but I just don't know where this like surge is going to come from. I just don't see it, but we'll see. It's still early.
And Luka's a gun, but he's leading them in points, rebounds, assists, and steals per game. And look, we know what he brings, and he's a walking triple-double, but I just think there needs to be more of a balance. And he's got to be getting worn down at times. I think it's hard to put him on your back every night. They currently, as of today, they're 27th in points per game at 108.7. They're 30th pro. Get this, 30th in rebounds per game. It's a pretty bad formula. They're 28th in assists per game. Where they're somehow getting the job done is opponents' points per game are second in the league, 106.4. So somehow they're playing great defense. They can't get the damn rebound, and they're not sharing the ball. Obviously, it's in Luka's hands a lot, but 28th with some of the guys they have on that roster skill set wise and some of the lob threats and whatnot, they should be at least middle of the park assist wise. They're concerning numbers. They're bottom 5 in points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game in the league. Thankfully, their defense has been very, very good, but they can't get the rebound. They're getting stops, but teams are getting second, third opportunities. So they got a lot to clean up. I don't think that's going to, Christian Wood, gets his numbers, but is he going to get you that tough physical rebound when you need it? Probably not. They might need to make a move for a big. They might need a big, solid body. JaVale McGee was supposed to be that guy. He's fallen out of the rotation completely. Dwight Powell's taking his minutes at the starting spot, and he only plays maybe 10 minutes max. The rest is all small ball. So that's a dangerous small ball. You're going to be 30th in the league in rebounding, and Dallas do go small a lot. So it will be interesting to see if they make any adjustments down the line. But a little bit of cause for concern early on in Dallas. Who do you have this week, bro?
San Antonio Spurs, team of the week. WEAK. 0-3 in the week. Look, they're tanking, but you know what? They're not tanking. Like you know,
Early on, they weren't. They came out real quick.
yeah, and they're going hard. They're going hard, Bogues, and I expected more. Like I expected them to like lose every game, and then they're just coming on to like they haven't had huge injury issues or whatever. It's just their way they play. Like their typical team of like guys who aren't ISO guys who try to play like ISO guys, and it ends up hurting them in the end. Like they played. And to talk about the scheduling, folks, how many of these like home and home? I mean, like home and home with the same team back to back. Do we see like? It's crazy. Like they play the late.
It's
like,
changed, right? Yeah, they introduced that during COVID, right? And they've stuck with it. Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. They played like the Lakers 3 times out of the last 4 games, twice in a row, once in LA, twice in a row in San Antonio. And they're just like, they play lifeless at times. Like Vassell and Keldon Johnson are guys that are good on the break, good like, when you penetrate kick to them. Johnson can get you a bucket once in a while, I mean, a lot with his isolation, but like he's either really on or really not. And they get blown out of games. I'll tell you one guy the Mavericks, talking about a Mavericks big that they should be targeting, is Jacob Podol. I love Podol. I think he's very undervalued. I think he's smart, could really rebound, great floater, good pick and rolls, tough kid. I really like him. I think he's a good player. I wouldn't give up the world for him, but I think he's a guy that's like Boston's going to probably, depending on what happens with their health of their bigs, I think there's going to be a couple of teams really looking at this guy at trade deadline, especially if they're not really trying to win games. But it's weird. They got a decent little group. Like, Trey Jones is solid for them. I think Vassell is probably one of the, most improved player award guys. He's averaging 20-4. Keldon Johnson's at 20-4. Sohan's one of the better rookies that like no one really thought much of early in the year. He's like a Dennis Rodman type. He's averaging 8-4. Their bench is okay with Richardson, McDermott, but man, like sometimes they just play lifeless and just jack up shots. It's ugly to watch. Again, we don't expect much of them anyway, but I expected more. Like CJ was out for New Orleans, and I thought that was a good chance for them to win, and they got fucking blown out of there, and then they lose 2 in a row. They had a hard-fought game against LA in the second night of the back-to-back last night, but they just don't really have enough. What are your thoughts on them, Bogues?
I had them until I realized Dallas was playing so poorly. I had Spurs. Not only have they lost 3 this week, they've lost 8 straight overall. And back to reality for Spurs, their losses against the Pelicans, who were shorthanded, the Lakers back-to-back, and Lakers are not good by any means. So, yeah, I think they're in a full tank mode, or they will be within the next couple of weeks if they're not already. They started off so well. They were first. I think they were not first. I think they were second or third at one point in the West, yeah. early on in the seasons. And Utah were first, and now they're falling off a cliff. But yeah, I mean, we didn't expect much from them, but they've probably, I'd agree. They've had one of the worst couple of weeks, if not week, of the season. But Dallas, Texas is struggling, and Houston. Oh, the state of Texas is in shambles. Pro, what's going on down there? So
must be in the water
right now.
Folks.
Yeah, it must be in the water. Yeah, so not good. All right, that's our teams of the week in both week and week. All right, what do we have here? Pat Bev, Pro, suspended for 3 games for shoving DeAndre Ayton. What are your thoughts on this? I think it's a very heavy suspension. 3 games for a push. Now, it was because it was a dangerous, hostile act. He obviously pushed Aiden over another body who was lying on the ground, whoever that was. I think it was that Reeves? Or someone was on the ground that he pushed him over. Yeah. And he's had a bit of a habit of pushing guys in the back. Booker's mentioned that in a press conference, and he did to Chris Paul a couple of years ago. It's definitely his forte to an extent, but 3 games is a bit harsh in my opinion, but I think this might just be because he's done it before and because maybe the back was turned, but I don't know what your thoughts are, bro. 3 games, fair?
It's a little heavy, Bogues, to be honest with you. It's a little much to me. Like, definitely a game, definitely a fine. 3 games
I'd
is a
agree with
little
that.
bit much.
I think 1 game
Although,
and a fine
yeah,
is fair.
the only thing about him is he's got that villain sort of status of, the stuff that he's done in the past and some antic stuff, trying to rev the game up. But I don't know. 3 games for that. I could see if he took somebody's legs out in a hostile act going to the basket. He shoved the guy. I'm not saying shoving a guy's right. It's definitely wrong what he did, especially in the back. But it wasn't like he put the guy's health in danger. He embarrassed him a little bit, fucking shoving him over and that. But I think that's a little bit. I think it's a little bit harsh.
Yeah, especially when you consider guys that maybe somewhat flagrant foul, a guy going for a dunk and they fall awkwardly, that they generally get maybe a game, maybe. And then, that's to your point of saying it was hostile to an extent because there was someone next to him when he fell. But I think the what I said about a guy off a rim or whatnot is way more severe, and those guys usually maybe get a game, so pretty heavy-handed. I mean, look, Pat Bev kind of, his antics are getting a little bit old, and I think a lot of people would agree, and I think the league's probably just said, you know what, the tough guy stuff, we're going to cut it out now. That's enough of that. And we're going to try to hopefully make you not do that again. But in my opinion, a little harsh. I think what you said, I agree. 1 game and a slap on the wrist with a fine, which would be a game check anyway, would be fair enough. And then if he does it again, and then I'd jump up to 2, 3, 4, 5. But a little bit harsh there. But what can you do? Gordon Hayward's. Have you read this whole debacle in Charlotte, Pro, to do with Gordon Hayward's injury?
I saw it on Hoops Hype, but I didn't go in to read it, but something about the injury misdiagnosed. What
Charlotte apparently having a habit of misdiagnosing injuries. They'd put out a statement about Gordon Hayward. Now, it's a guy that's been pretty injury prone, so he's probably a bit touchy about it, as I was when I was, playing. I hated, not hated that tag, but I thought at times it was unfair because I had a lot of high impact stuff. He's a little bit, probably disappointed by getting hurt again. They came out and just said he has a left shoulder contusion, Pro. So he was copping some more hate online, as always happens in the sports world on social media. His wife Robin comes out and blasts the Hornets, saying they've misdiagnosed him publicly yet again. They made out his injury is not as bad as it is, and that he has a left scapular fracture. She also goes on to say that she was speaking to a mother of some other players on the team, and they were in agreement that the same thing had happened to their sons at some point in the past as well, where the Hornets had released statements underplaying the injury. Now, some people might argue they might underplay it to not put out intel. Sometimes teams do that strategically. They might say, he's day-to-day, when you well know he's out a week or 2 because it messes with team scanner reports. They might think he's playing, whatever. But on the other side, there's some teams that do it as a way to try to put pressure on you to come back earlier. I've been part of those teams before at times where coaches will say things or GMs will say things, or the PR statement reads kind of like open-ended, like, oh, no, he's all right, he just kind of needs a night, and when it's something more severe. So if this is something Charlotte's doing, it's disappointing. It's disappointing that his wife had to come out and defend him, but I have to keep an eye on that one, Pro, moving forward, because you never want to see that. And I think the best teams usually all the good teams I've been a part of that have a great PR guy, great coaches, great GMs, they'll come to the player and be like, hey, how do you want to handle this? Like, you're going to be out 2 weeks. Do you want us to put this? How do you want us to word it? They usually send it to your agent sometimes. Some players don't want to deal with it. They might send it to your agent. The agent might say, ooh, the wording is a little bit, vague. We want to shore that up because it's a contract year or because of this or because of that. That's good teams. Bad teams will just put a statement out in their best interest. And it sounds like this is kind of what Charlotte has done, Pro.
That's unfortunate. You see so much of what's going on with medical. It's funny, Bogues, I was going through the Hoops Hype to see what to talk about this week. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of fucking guys banged up. Like this early in the year. Like
100%.
Literally, it's like 9 pages of this guy's out, this guy's got this guy's got that, this guy's coming back from this guy. It's unbelievable. I didn't notice it that much in the past. This is a lot of people banged up, but remember with Kawhi and the San Antonio deal, and you have all these medical things that come up with teams and the diagnosis and what they put out, and mistreating injuries and misdiagnosing. It's
Well, the Spurs one with Kawhi was that was big news because it was like two different messages from his camp and Spurs camp, and that's inevitably what they say is a reason why he left. Remember that whole ordeal? They were saying one thing, he was saying the other.
and I've heard of teams putting guys a little bit more on the injured list, especially people at the end of their rookie deal, so they're I guess with your qualifying offer, you got to play at a certain percentage of games, or you have to have some type of numbers. And people were like at the end of the year, sitting people out on purpose so they don't reach that game threshold, and to lower their qualifying offer number. So you got a lot of goofy stuff that happens with these medical teams sometimes. I mean, I was lucky, the one in Dallas is really good. Casey Smith and those guys, they do a great job. But I've heard of some shit shows, with some other organizations that are you misdiagnosed, they rehab the injury wrong. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that the casual fan doesn't really pay attention to. Probably should. It's it's pretty interesting stuff.
It is, and there's always, you got to read between the lines a lot of this stuff. So sometimes teams will set traps for other teams. Sometimes they, don't tell the whole truth for a reason, strategically as well. So you got to kind of watch out for that. All right, Pro, we've got a new segment. We're going to do every week. It is Aussie Watch. I had some listeners for a while now saying, can you give us an update on the Aussies in the NBA? And I thought it'd be a good time to bring this in real quick. We don't have to go too in depth, but what we're going to do week to week is we're going to kind of go over how all the Aussies are doing real quick, just stats wise, whether they're playing or not, whether they're doing well. And we're going to give our Aussie Player of the Week. So
nice.
This is the inaugural, the first of the first. So all you listeners, you're in for a treat. But let's get rolling with Dyson Daniels. He's cracked the rotation in New Orleans. I know someone there, and they've told me since training camp, this kid's going to play. He might not play early on because it's a veteran coach, but he does so many good things. Energy, length, multi-positional player. He's still learning how to play to an extent, very, very young, but just good feel for the game. And a good solid week for him. 7.6 points, 3.6 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and a steal per game off the bench for New Orleans. They had some injuries there at times, but he's a very, very good player, Pro, and he's going to be a very, 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 very good Pro for a long time because he just does so many great things. I don't know what your thoughts are about Dyson, but he's had a pretty good start to the season.
No, he's definitely energetic. Again, watching him play and then watching his pre-draft stuff, I think he's a good player. He shows energy. I think if you give energy and you've got one thing that you can do to get in the game, and then you just do the right things, you're about the right things, you go hard every day, you stay focused, and you really care about it, I think you could be good. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be a good rotation player. I'll tell you what, it'll be really hard for him to crack that lineup, with Ingram and McCollum being there, and even Herbert Jones playing well. But as far as starting lineup, but I think he could really be a second unit guy that he might have to move on to another team eventually to be a starter, unless they move somebody in the front unit. But I think he's somebody who has a lot of upside, a lot of future, because he's such a good kid, and he seems like he's just a good player and a good player, good person to be around. So I definitely think he'll have a future there.
Good week for him. And for those who haven't heard this already, I played against his father when I played in the SEABL league here in Australia when I was with the AIS. His father was on the Bendigo team. He was an import that just had retired in Bendigo, married, stayed local. Dyson grew up out there, and he's also got a younger brother who's got a chance to be very good, who's coming up the next couple of years as well. But good on Dyson there. Josh Green, we spoke about earlier. He's cracked the rotation for Dallas. Pro, you spoke about that his three balls getting there. Well, get this, Pro. He's shooting 48.6% for the year from three. His improvement has been huge compared to last season. He had a night last week, Pro, 23 points, 6 for 7 from three. So he's shooting it with much more confidence. Last season, he didn't shoot it with confidence. It was more of he just always put it on the floor and try to attack the rim. 6 points, 6 fouls in 70 minutes in a loss to Toronto this week. And and 22 minutes for 3 points in a loss to Boston. So he's in the rotation. He's starting to find, he's having those games where he's showing what he can do, just has to put it together. But yeah, 48.6% from three, Pro. That's not too bad.
No. And they got a really good shooting coach by a guy named Peter Patton, does a great job. And, he obviously put the work in. I was a little worried about him his first year. He wasn't really in the rotation. I think he missed some time. I don't know if he was away from the team or maybe that was their other rookie. I'm not sure, but he was just inconsistent. And, they couldn't play him really in the playoffs that much. And then this year he's been really solid. He played for you guys. He played for the national team this past summer, right?
Yeah, he didn't play a lot, but he was, he was on that squad. I believe he was on that squad.
He goes hard.
Sure.
And it goes hard. Every time you see him play, he goes hard. And, actually, I think he played in the playoffs a little bit. He just, his shooting just was inconsistent. This year, look, he's taking 2 threes a game. Like you said, he's making 48% and 52.9, or did you have 48% or 52.9?
48%, 48.6. Has it gone up? Maybe one today.
Okay, cool. You know what? It's probably from today. I think I did my stats this morning. It's cool. But I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be a rotation player for a long time. I think he gives you energy.
Good defender. Really good defender as well.
Really good defender,
Really good defender. But yeah, didn't play a lot on the Olympics, spot minutes here and there. But he's got an opportunity to earn some minutes there, especially when they need, they need a few more young kind of live bodies in that squad. All right, Jock Landale. This is a weird one, Pro. Playing really well. We had raps for him. We love Jock Landale. He's been, on the Rogue Bogues podcast, so he's a roguie. He's given us some time to tell us about his story, but playing really well early on in the season, felt like he finally found a spot where he was valued. He knew he was getting 10 to 15 a night behind Aiden. And then the last 4, he got 3 straight DNPs out of nowhere. They went with Bismack Biyombo and then played 5 minutes in their last game. And he had 4 1-on-1 in 5 minutes and played well. It was a plus in a close game. He was a positive plus minus. And then Monty went in the press conference again and mentioned that, we're still not going to see too much of Jock in the future. That was just an anomaly that I threw him in there today. So don't know what's going on, but he's had a great start to the season. He's played well, but all of a sudden he's just, I don't know, he's in the bad books of Coach Monty Williams and not playing as much. And I don't think it's anything that he's done or there's definitely no off-the-court indiscretions or anything of the sort. It's just he's fallen out of the rotation for Bismack Biyombo. And I think, CP3 out of the lineup, doesn't help Jock's cause to an extent because the guards they all of a sudden have now a bit more shoot first than CP3 is, and CP was playing really well, or Jock was playing really well with CP in the lineup and getting a lot of easy baskets. But I'm scratching my head at this one, Pro.
Bogues, there's nothing worse than being a rotation player, knowing you're going to get your 15 minutes a night, doing well, and then just sort of things change and they just go to a different direction. And to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense because, look, like DeAndre Ayton is a plotter inside, athletic guy, inside scorer, decent defender, rebounder, whatnot. And usually you want to change it up when you go to a different type of player. Guy a little bit more skilled, a little more cerebral, can pass the ball, a little bit more basketball IQ than Ayton as far as making some other plays. But you go Biyombo, who's a big, strong guy that plays inside. Now, Jock hasn't made the three ball this year. Obviously, that's a part of his game that he needs to be a little bit more consistent with. But he gives you a different dynamic than Ayton does. And to go with Ayton and now Biyombo, I just don't think Biyombo helps you. If you're in a series and you're playing a team with a big hulking center, I don't even know if there's any of those guys left. If you're playing Embiid or
if you make the finals, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's where I want Biyombo.
Yeah. And your point to him not making the 3, I argue that he's shooting the 20%. He's not shooting the ball well. But I've watched some of the games. They're great. His ball, it all looks fine. They're just rimming out. He's in one of those ruts. It's not like he's airballing, right? But I would argue that for every 3 he misses, he makes up he runs his ass off, man. And gets 1 or 2 dunks a game. Just 1 or 2 dunks. So it's it evens out. But it's just strange they went away from him out of nowhere. Now they've won 4 straight. So maybe he's out of the rotation for a bit. But I have a funny feeling that when CP3 comes back and he's healthy, that Jock will find some more minutes. But bit of a head scratcher on that one. Matisse Thybulle, something's going on there. He played 3 minutes versus Brooklyn about a week and a half ago. His last 3, he's been injured, bad ankle. Is it a case of that he's trying to, strategize his way out of there? I can't understand how he's not playing minutes because they're like worried about his offensive game when PJ Tucker is. And I'll get into that in the useful or useless as a stat around this. But he's out of the rotation there. We don't have to get into that one. Patty Mills completely out of the rotation. Spot minutes here and there. DNP today. Seth Curry, big game today. Had, I think, 27 points off the bench or 30 points off the bench. Patty's basically lost most of his minutes. He'll get 3 or 4 minutes here or there in a short little burst, but he's looks like he's going to be out of the rotation to Seth Curry being healthy now. Jack White has some small garbage minutes with Denver Pro. He was at Melbourne United a couple of seasons ago, and it's just good to see him on the court. No real mind-glaring stats. 10 minutes against Denver in a close game. He had 2 blocks in that game late in the game. So no real minutes there. Daly, small garbage minutes, nothing to write home about. And the runner-up for the Australian of the Week, this was Josh Giddey for me. 13 points, 7.6 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game. He's going to put those numbers up the whole season. They're just not winning as many games as not as I thought they would. I just thought they'd be a bit more solid. Like the loss to Houston was just a bad loss for them, so they're still figuring things out. Strong preseason from 3 Pro. I don't know if you remember. Remember he was shooting 40s in the 3? From the 3 in preseason. Well, he's regressed right back to his number of last season, which is 26%. So the 3 ball for him is a must. And, he doesn't need to be a volume 3-point shooter. He doesn't need to be a guy that's going, 4 for 5 or whatever, but he needs to knock down 1, maybe 2 a night, and his whole game is different. His whole game opens up, and he's the runner-up for me. And I'm going with Ben Simmons. I'm giving Ben Simmons the love as the Australian of the Week Pro. I think he had a great week. He had a slow start to the year, but his week this week was 12 points a game, 12 points, 6.7 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 2.25 steals, and 1.5 blocks. So a pretty good stat line, very, very solid. Starting to find a bit of form and confidence. Pro, the best thing about this week, and it's a small sample size, I know, he was 7 for 11 from the free throw line. Small sample size, but he's a different beast when he's hitting free throws. Even if he's hitting them at 55, 60%, he's a different beast. You can see his confidence. His shoulders are all of a sudden not slumping. He's attacking the paint in fast breaks, not scared of getting fouled. When he misses, 3 or 4 free throws early in games, he kind of goes away from it. So he'll be the first to tell you he's still a work in progress with finding everything and putting it together. But I'm giving him the first ever Rogue Bogues Australian of the Week goes to Ben Simmons. So I'm loving seeing him finding some form and then winning some games again, Pro.
Bogues, look, for the Simmons deal, like everybody's on this whole 3-point kick. 3-pointers for him, don't worry about fucking 3-pointers. If he didn't shoot another 3-pointer the rest of his career, he'll be fine. The 2 most valuable shots in the NBA isn't the 3-point shot. It's finishing in the paint and your free throw shooting. You go, like, statistically, average 3-point shooters around 35, 36%. That will give you about 1.2 points for every 3-pointer you take. Like, you're going to get back about 1.2. People usually shoot 65% in the paint at the rim. So that's giving you close to 1.5 points per shot in the paint at the rim. And then free throws, if you shoot, say 75%, 80%, say you shoot 80% from the line, you go to the line for 2 shots, it's creating 1.6 points per shot, per shot, per 2 shots for the free throw line. So if he could get to the paint and finish consistently and get his free throws to 70%, 75%, that's more valuable than taking threes over a period of a career, especially somebody like him who's going to get to the paint and get to the rim and get to the free throw line because people are going to hack a shack him. So don't worry about the 3-point shot, in my opinion. Yeah, look, if you can make a corner 3 once in a while, great. But if he can make free throws and he can get to the paint and finish, that's much more valuable, than anything else that he can do, and yeah, like I said, 3-point shooting in the future, fine, but the free throw shooting is the biggest thing. Like, if he could just tunnel vision himself, get to 70% from the line, now you're not as much of a liability. It's not everybody gets on this 3-point shooting kick, because everybody's lemmings falling off a fucking cliff. They hear Jeff Van Gundy throwing about it, Doris Burke yelling about it, all these people yelling about 3-point shooting. Like, yeah, it's important, don't get me wrong. But if he can make his free throws, you could play him in close games. You can't play a guy who can't make his free throws in close games, at any position. So, yeah, I agree with you with the Simmons thing. I'm happy for him. I hope he continues his success. I'm not a fan of the guy, but I definitely never want somebody to fail. I think he'll, hopefully he could just sort of stay steady, going forward.
Yep, good to see. So that's our Australians of the week. We'll try to do that every week and just give a quick rundown on who's doing well and who's not. And we'll check in pro.
I'll give you the fire my fucking trainer and get our fucking Instagram award for this week. It's going to go.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, remember, now here's the criteria, folks. You got to play 15 minutes a game. There's a game requirement. Right now it's at 12. You got to play 12 or more games, 15 minutes a game. And the shooting numbers are under 42, under 30 from the three, and under 70 from the line. Now we have two guys.
All three of them, right?
Yeah, you got to have all three. Justice Winslow, he's 2 for 2, 36.9 from the field, 63.6 from the free throw line, 23.1 from the 3-point line. Jalen Suggs from the Orlando Magic, 41.9 from the field, 65.7 from the free throw line, and 29.4 from the three.
Jalen Suggs, welcome to the club.
The pink slips are coming out this week, gentlemen. You don't stay off Instagram, TikTok, of all your tennis ball drills that you do with these guys. These guys need to get in the gym. They need to meet their free throws and start making some shots and fire their trainers, because obviously those guys have been a waste of money up to this point.
So Winslow was on last week too. Who was the other one? Kobe White. Now, so we've got Jalen Suggs. We've got a third wheel. Welcome to the club, Jalen Suggs. So
yeah.
The pro. We have to figure out. Give us some clues for some names for this segment. People want to hear some names for our Fire Trainer Pro Runner of the Week. I like it. But we're going to do that one and the Aussie one. So give us some tips on that. All right. Dabble is betting meets social media on Dabble. You can follow your friends and mates and stalk the experts, trending tipsters, scroll through trending bets and copy them all in one tap. At the moment, they have a promotion on that if someone copies your bet, you get 10 cents to your account. So jump on board and put some multis out there. And I'm on there, Andrew Bogut, all one word. Download the app store, Dabble, all one word, Dabble socially, gamble responsibly. All right, NBL Australia News Pro. James Duncan is gone from the Brisbane Bullets. Interesting decision by the Brisbane Bullets. They started on 5, so you would have thought that if you were going to fire someone, you'd do it then. But he looked like they were coming into a bit of form to then. They did play Illawarra a couple of times, which always gets you a few in the win column. They're not doing too well this season in old Illawarra. But there was a fever break. They could have let him go then. They didn't come back. He had another loss, and they fired him. What's interesting here, Pro, is, and I'd have to get the NBL fact checkers out on this because I think this might be one of the first. So I could be wrong, but I believe it's maybe back in the day it happened. But the GM that fired the head coach is taken over as head coach, Pro. I'm not sure if this is indefinite. I'm not sure if this is just till they find a replacement. It is not, no offense to the assistant coaches, but it's not a great sign of confidence in your assistant coaches if you're taking over as the GM. But the GM is Sam McKinnon, former NBL superstar, teammate of mine on the national team, great fella. Not off to a great start. They got absolutely pummeled on the weekend. But an interesting one, Pro. I have not seen this. And NBL fact checkers or gurus out there, let me know if this is a first. But has anyone else gone from the GM wearing a suit to coaching? It does save the Bullets some money though, Pro. I think I doubt they're giving him 2 different salaries. So I think they get a bit of a discount. And then who's doing the GMing now? If they need to recruit someone or cut someone or waive someone, it's hard to put that on your head coach as well. So a lot going on there in Brisbane, Pro. I'm not sure your thoughts on it.
It's always tough, Bogues. Obviously I don't know much about. I don't follow the league as much as I should. But as far as that whole situation, it's GM all the way down to the coach. I know it happens in the NBA from time to time. I know Kevin McHale did it when he was in Minnesota. I know Popovich did it. I think Popovich fired Larry Brown or Bob Hill, one of those guys, and took the job from being GM to coach. But I don't. It's a little weird in overseas international game for that to happen. So yeah, if I'm the assistant coaches, I'd probably be finding somewhere else to work, for sure, because it's not really it's not a good sign. I mean, I don't want to joke about someone's job, but it's not a good sign when they don't really feel as though that you're ready to lead, and they just take the job. Now, maybe the owner said, again, I don't know anything about this. Maybe the owner was like, hey, look, maybe we'll sell some seats or whatever. Maybe this guy's got a name. I don't know. But definitely not a great situation.
I think it was a budget decision, Pro. If I'm playing devil's advocate, I think it's hard to probably find someone right now. So they probably just thought, we've got a guy with half decent basketball IQ there. We'll let him do it and see how it goes. Or maybe it's a case of the owner said, hey, GM, you built this roster. You told us it's a winnable roster. Show us. Put your money where your mouth is. It could be that as well. Who knows? But I mean, what I'm hearing is they've got someone in their sights from overseas, and it might come to fruition maybe down the line. But who knows? I mean, it's one of those things that you never want to see. I know James Duncan very well. Great man, great gentleman. He was an assistant coach at the Kings when I was there, and you feel for him. But that's his business. It's harsh. It's harsh and brutal, and he's coached all over the world, so he knows what it's all about when it comes to this kind of stuff. The Christmas Day game, Pro. So the Sydney Kings are hosting the first ever Christmas Day game in NBL history. It's something that we as a group, the ownership group, and myself, I pushed for this because I was like, let's just try and see if it works. It's kind of taboo here still, Pro, to play on Christmas, even though it's not the most overly religious country in the world. There's a lot of naysayers, especially the football codes, because they haven't done it before. Oh, you shouldn't do that. It's sacrilege. It's a family day, all that kind of stuff. We're giving it a try. And the good news is that Channel 10, which is a free-to-air network here in Australia, they're gonna pick it up and put it on the main national network, which is great news. They're going to pick up the game and put it, free to wear all over Australia on Christmas Day. So we're hoping that most people would love to watch some sport. I know I would. I would watch any kind of sport on Christmas Day rather than the reruns of Home Alone and all other stuff they put on, Christmas choirs and whatnot. So it's a good sign that the game's going to be nationally televised for the whole country of Australia, Pro.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. I'm sure it's a great opportunity. Although it's how it is, Bogues. It doesn't matter if you're NBA or NBL or what have you. You'd probably rather try to be home on Christmas. But look, if they're opening up new doors and some new marketing opportunities, why not? Why not try it and go from there? It's it'll be an interesting deal.
Yeah, and that argument, there were some people with that argument spending the time with their family. They shouldn't be playing a basketball game. Well, I'll tell you this: there's a lot of teams in the past 3 or 4 years have played on the 26th of December. So for those people that aren't too quick using their brain, that means someone's traveling on the 25th. So you're either on a plane or in an arena. So that's the business we're in, and I think Christmas Day in the NBA is a great day. I think spending time with your family and then watching 2 or 3 games is always good fun. So I think it's a good thing. And a bit of down news. Now there's been there's been an article on the Australian Financial Review regarding the owner of the Adelaide 36ers, Grant Kelly. Now I'm just going to read this article. I'm not going to give an opinion on it for numerous different reasons at the current time, but. This article this news has kind of slipped under the radar NBL-wise. It hasn't been mentioned in basketball circles. It hasn't been mentioned by any NBL journalists or reporters nationally, which is, you can read what you want into that. But there was so let me read this article out. Former Vicinity boss Grant Kelly is now considering legal action. Former boss of shopping centre giant Vicinity Centres, massive shopping centre company here, abruptly left the company following 2 separate findings of sexual harassment and a dysfunctional workplace, has met lawyers to consider legal action against the company. Kelly has basically said, I'm reserving my rights, confirming he's met with his lawyers, but he's restrained from saying too much. However, he strongly denied he was forced to leave the company because of sexual harassment complaint. On Tuesday, it was revealed that Kelly was was the subject of an internal inquiry by Vicinity into allegations that he made repeated inappropriate and sexual comments to a former co-worker, Marie Fester, who at the time was Vicinity's head of corporate affairs. Fester made a number of allegations against Kelly, including that he made intrusive comments about her attractiveness and boasted to her about his sexual conquests. Kelly had previously announced in October he was retiring as a CEO within the next 6 months, but a day before the group's November 15 annual shareholder meeting, it was announced he would step down just before the allegations surfaced. Vicinity says it expedited his retirement after some allegations raised were proven in an internal review revealed a dysfunctional workplace and discord arising from some of Kelly's behaviours. We take allegations of misconduct very seriously and follow a strict protocol to address concerns. And when they are raised, that was from Vicinity. Kelly said he cooperated fully in the sexual harassment investigation. He denied the allegations and said he maintained that denial. My decision to leave Vicinity had nothing to do with those allegations or the investigation. While I'm not happy in the way in which it all happened, it has allowed me to get onto my new initiative, and that is good for everyone. And he just talks about starting up a new fund and whatnot. Fester, who resigned this month, said while she was not a fragile person, she was infuriated that the remarks were made. This kind of sexual harassment can make you question whether you're actually being valued because you're good at what you do or whether it's because they have other ideas about you. She told that to the Australian Financial Review on last Tuesday. So a bit of news from the NBL world, from the executive rooms, Pro. So not good news on either front. We're not going to comment on this just because it is still alleged from both sides. Grant Kelly is denying it heavily. Marie Fester is saying it happened. So we'll see what eventuates from all of that, Pro. Useful or useless? Time, some more happy, cheery stuff now, Pro. Joel Embiid is first in free throw attempts per minute in NBA history, Pro. You believe that? He's number one at 0.31 per minute, which is pretty crazy. So, you know who number two would be, Pro? Who did he surpass?
If I had to guess, maybe Chamberlain.
It was Chamberlain's in there. He's number 6 at 0.25. It was Shaq at 0.27, and probably an asterisk there because he got hacker-shacked as well, right? So he's number 2. Bob Petit is number 3 at 0.26.
Hey,
John Drew.
Bob Pettit, you asshole. Bob Pettit, not Petit. He's not
Petite.
Not a 5'2". No, it's Pettit. He's not a 5'2".
No, but he's a small man, isn't he? He's nice and petite.
No, he's 6'10". He's a big guy.
I'm joking. I'll take that one on the chin. Take that one. Bob Pettit. Fair enough. I deserve that. All right, number 4, John Drew.
Fix that.
No, you can leave that in. John Drew's number 4, 0.26, tied with Bob Pettit. And number 5 is James Harden at 0.25. Now, I didn't know much about John Drew. Do you know much about him, Pro?
No.
Do you even know what he replayed?
So
I Googled. So I had no idea.
The Drew
it intrigued me because I don't know shit about. I know a lot of shit about the NBA names and stuff, and this one came across my page. And I was John Drew. I'd never really heard of him, so I googled. And this rolls into another useful or useless stat, I guess. But no, he was 1970s and 80s. Played for the Hawks and Jazz. Small forward. Okay. Gun of a player. Like put up big numbers. Well, obviously he's top 6 in free throws attempted per minute in NBA history. He was the first player ever banned for substance abuse in NBA history, Pro. David Stern banned him for life. So he was out of the league with some substance abuse, went and played in the CBA, and then was making his journey back to get to the NBA, and then relapsed again. And then after his relapse, David Stern was like, we're not going to accept him back. And he was an awesome, like a really good player, man. 18, 19, 20 a night back then. Now deceased. May rest in peace. But a very sad story of a gun. Yeah, he did actually earlier this year. A very sad story of a sensational player I didn't know much about. So for people out there want to read more about that, stay away from drugs, of course. But the stat itself for Joel Embiid, Pro, useful or useless?
Useful for sure. It just shows that the guy gets the free throw line a lot. I mean, obviously his shooting percentages, it's not like a Shaq situation where he's getting, it's hack-a-Shaq deal. He just gets the line. Yeah, it's a hulking. I would have thought that James Harden would have been up there, like number 2 or something like that, if I had to guess another guy. But that is pretty. I know James was 5th, but I think it's useful for sure. It just shows that he gets to the line a lot, and it's an effective way to produce some points. What do you think, Bogues?
Gets fouled a lot. Yeah, 7 foot, can put on the floor. Euro steps guys. He's got a post game, shoots threes. So yeah, he's doing a great job, and he's getting to the line, and he draws a lot of fouls. Some people say he's searching them. If he's searching them or not, he's getting to the line. So very, very useful, I think. And they need him healthy. He's been in and out of the lineup, hasn't played for a couple of games now. So hopefully he can get right. All right, you'll never guess this, but who do you think leads the NBA in loose balls recovered, pro? I'll give you 3 guesses.
Okay.
Loose balls recovered.
Recovered. Let me look up, not that stat, but let me look up some stat leaders, maybe steals or something. I'm just going to guess here. Hold on a second. Main stats. I will say, no, I was going to say maybe Alex Caruso, but he's hurt too much. I don't know. Steph Curry.
Luka Doncic.
No shit.
Leads the NBA in loose balls recovered, yes. They were talking about it a couple of days ago, and a lot of that is down to the fact that he's playing 40 minutes a night. But I don't know whether it's luck or position or smarts or whatever it is. He's not the quickest guy, not the most athletic, but he's somehow getting the loose balls first. So pretty interesting stat, bro. Useful or useless?
Loose balls recovered.
Now that can mean, I tip the ball out. I'm guarding a post player. I tip it and it falls to Luka, right? So it can also mean that, right? But
I think it's useless because it just seems like it's a very lucky thing. Not that he doesn't get on the floor and gets loose balls, but I'm just saying if it's tipped out, a lot of guys could just be in the right place at the right time. I don't know. I would say useless, but what the fuck do I know? What do you think?
I would say useless as well. I think useless. I think the same thing. Look, I think he plays a lot of minutes, so he's on the court more. I'd hardly regard Doncic as a guy that's going to dive on a loose ball. And that's not knocking him. That's like him being smart. You don't want Doncic diving on a loose ball like a la Dellavedova or Caruso. These guys that are Beverly, nitty gritty. They're trying to get an extra. You don't want him doing that because he might get injured, right? And he's the be all and end all of your team. So I think a little bit of luck involved there, but you got to put yourself in those positions. I think his basketball IQ definitely puts him in positions where he thinks the ball's going to go or get tipped or end up, so it helps. So a little bit, I'd go 70-30 to useless. So I think there's a little bit of usefulness in it, but for the most part, useless. So move on from that one. All right, PJ Tucker has scored 20 points in the month of November through 11 games, pro. That's the stat. But the reason why I want to discuss this is because they say, Matisse isn't playing because of his offensive output, not shooting the ball well. Well, PJ Tucker is, and I would argue Matisse is, okay, he's not as physical as PJ, but I think like for like, they're pretty similar defensively in the echelon of great defenders. Matisse was, all defensive team member a couple of seasons ago. I've scratched my head as to how Matisse is not getting minutes and PJ Tucker's playing 35, 20 points in 11 games, which is, under 2 points a night. But the stat itself, pro, useful, useless?
I think it's pretty useful that he just can't score. He just can't score. It's just not what he's doing. And I think PJ gives you a little bit of physicality and obviously he's smart. He's been around the league a long time. I would say it's useful just because it just shows that he's a non-offensive player. And it's useful to me that I'm evaluating why Thibault isn't getting minutes. And, like you said, why wouldn't you give Thibault minutes? He's young. He's your future as far as a guy who could be a rotation defender, who could be a starting defender. And I just don't understand why he's not playing. I know it's not a Thibault thing, but I don't know. I think it's pretty useful. The guy's just not an offensive threat to a team that's run with a GM that you need to be an offensive threat to be on the floor. A 3-point shooter, and he's just not getting it done. Although he's shooting 38-7 from the 3, but still, it's I think it's useful. But what do you think?
I think it's useful to say that Matisse deserves minutes. I'm a bit of bias because he's an Australian and whatever, but if you're reasoning for Matisse not playing his inconsistencies offensively, you know what he brings defensively. He's long, athletic. I've seen him guard Luka well, KD well. He's a great defender one-on-one. That's why you got PJ out there, but PJ's giving you the same output offensively. I'd argue that if you had Matisse out there in the last 11 games of PJ's minutes, he'd have much more than 20 points. So we know PJ is valuable, great role player, but that's why I think it's useful. So just an interesting one. What do you got for us this week? Fact or fake news?
All right, Bogues. I want to talk about possibility of Durant heading back to Golden State. Forget about the Durant trade in a second, but the Golden State Warriors will trade one of their top 4 players. Not mentioning names, I don't want to put you out there with that, but I'm just saying, like, the Golden State Warriors will trade one of their top 4 players for a player this year. And, so not a Wiseman, not anyone like that, but top 4, they will trade a top 4 player to acquire another player by trade deadline this year. Fact or fake news?
Who's that? Golden State?
Yes. Or they keep the team intact.
Fake news. No, I don't think they're doing anything. They're keeping it intact. Maybe some tweaks. I read they're trying to get a big hurdles being floated, so that on Hoops Hype. So they do need they're looking to get a big, strong, bulky big, which probably is a bit of an indictment on Wiseman once again. Kind of makes you feel like he's going to be in the G League even longer. But I don't think they're moving their big 4, as you might call it.
Yeah, I say fake news too. I don't see them doing it. I definitely think Wiseman. I think that at least Wiseman will be on the move. Kuminga, if not Kuminga and Wiseman, will be on the move. I think they will acquire another player, and I think both those guys are going to be on the way out. And I don't know what it's going to be for. But again, it's all speculation. I don't think they'll trade one of their top guys. I think they'll trade, and trading those 2 guys won't get you Durant either. So probably not going to get Durant, but they'll get somebody for those 2 guys. Somebody's going to unload somebody for those 2. I don't think either one of those guys will help you win NBA games anytime soon. I'm not a Wiseman fan. I never have been. And Kuminga, and not that Wiseman's not a good player. Like I said, I think he's a Dwayne Dedmon type. I've said that since he was a rookie. And Kuminga, he's all right, but I say they're going to make a smaller trade. So I say fake news on that one. All right, folks, so a lot of talk, MVP talk, blah, blah, blah. You hear Luka's name a lot. You hear Giannis's name a lot. You would start an NBA team today with Luka Doncic over Giannis. If you had a pick, you had one pick out of those 2 guys, you're picking Luka over Giannis right then today. Fact or fake?
Oh my God, bro, what are you doing? There's no right answer here. In my opinion, there's no right answer or wrong answer.
Yeah, for sure.
If it was me, based on body of work and what I've seen, as of today, so they're both young, coming to their prime. I mean, Luka's a much all-around better skilled player, but Giannis is just an anomaly with the way he plays and moves up and down the court. And I think Giannis can play multiple positions to an extent, 5-4, maybe even a bit of 3 at times, for some mismatches, but generally 4-5. It's a coin flip to me, bro. I can't call it either way. I would side today. My bias would be towards Giannis because he has a championship. So that's the only reason I'd lean that way. But I'd say fake news just based on that. That's the merit I'm going on. But you can't fault either of them, in my opinion.
No, not at all. I hate these arguments. I don't think it's an argument. I'm just asking you your opinion, and I say it's fact. I would take Luka, and only because of the passing and the big shot making. I'm a huge passing fan. If you got vision and its players even close in evaluation, but one guy's got passing. Not that Giannis can't pass, but the ability to find guys, plus he's got the ball in his hands so much, I'll take that. And then also the big shot making, like clutch shot making, tough shot making. I think that even though neither one of them are 3-point champs by any stretch of the imagination, I'm taking Luka.
Well, Luka just takes so many tough ones. Luka just takes some ridiculous ones. It's like he gets bored of the game sometimes. I'm just going to try this.
But the ability to take like half court fucking shots, stepping out of bounds, Like, he's not afraid
Crazy.
of anything. Yeah, it's nuts.
And the way I'd compare
Bird,
it, since 100, the bird falling out of bounds shit. But the way I'd compare it, Giannis's wins are rebounding, paint points, and I think he's a much better, not even close defensively, better than Luka. And like you said, Luka, shot making, passing, and just playmaking in general. So, look, I think as far as playmaking, you take Luka 10 times out of 10, but Giannis just continues to get it done, and he's been doubted a lot, and I think Giannis brings a lot too. So the championship's the kicker for me. Next.
Last one, Bogues. Both Miami and Dallas underachieving, I would assume that both of us would say. Both at 11th place in their respective conferences. One of those teams will miss the playoffs and play in. Fact or fake news? One of them.
Fake news. They're not missing. No, fake news. If you would have said that they're both going to be planes, that's a tough one. But yeah, I think they're not missing. If you look at the East, I don't trust New York. I don't trust Chicago. Charlotte, Orlando, and Detroit, you can put a line through. Wizards, still, who knows? Indiana going to free fall eventually, maybe. Yeah. Atlanta still not completely sold. Toronto, bit inconsistent. Brooklyn playing better, but who knows? And then you go out to the West. I mean, Utah free falling. Portland will be somewhere around there. Minnesota look horrible in my opinion. They're brutal. They're going to be around. They're going to be around there, and I think line through Houston, line through San Antonio, almost a line through the Lakers. OK City, maybe scratching the surface, but I doubt it. They're my bottom four of the last five. So then it comes down to, Minnesota, Utah, Portland, Sacramento are up there as well. They could free fall. It's out of those for that 10th spot, in my opinion. So I don't think Dallas will be in the bottom five. I think they'll salvage their way out of it. Like you said, a la Boston last season. I don't think they're going to make the championship, but I think they'll be in the mix for a play-in at the very least. And so will Miami. I think Miami will find. Miami's had a lot of injuries, man. Miami's
they're banged up.
They haven't played well, but they haven't had a consistent lineup, it seems, since training camp. Like they've always got a vital couple of guys out, two important role players, or the next game it's an important star player, and they'll find their legs. And Riley will be down there, getting into him, a la the documentary. A Showtime documentary series. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't think I'll fake news you on that one, bro.
Agreed. I would say fake news to that. Like, I'll tell you what, Carlisle should win Coach of the Year for what he's doing in Indiana so far. I mean, I'm not, like I said, not on his Christmas list, but the guy has done a good job. But I can't see those guys. I could definitely see him trading Turner and or Hill and not getting much back in return for either one of them, and then them just free falling, because those guys are playing great for him, and but I could see them free falling out of it for sure, and that's the one team I could see free falling out. Possible Washington, New York, but I could see those guys hovering around that. But at least Indiana's going to fall. Miami will get better; they'll get healthy, and they'll be in there. As far as Dallas, Utah's going to fall out of it. Minnesota circling the drain. Sacramento playing well, but you never know. And then you never know. There's probably going to be a freak injury, God forbid, on one of those two conferences, on an up above team that's going to fall somebody out. So I know those both teams are struggling, but as crazy as it is, like, Dallas is only 3.5 out of the first spot in the West, and Miami's only 6.5 out of the first spot in the East. So obviously there's not a lot they don't have to travel that far. They're both tied for 10, so they're right now they're right in the thick of things as it is. So yeah, I say it's fake news. I'd see both of them making it.
Yeah, still very close, still very, very, very tight in that 10 and 11 in both conferences for the most part. So we'll see how that all goes, and hopefully it changes the next couple of weeks for those teams. All right, that wraps up the latest episode of the Rogue Boys Basketball Series. Appreciate all the support. Let us know about a name for Pro's rant about his trainers, if he doesn't get shot between now and the next episode. And we'll see you all next week, Pro.
See you next week if I'm here. If I'm not, I'm sure there'll be some other jolly Aussie in my place. So, hopefully I'll see you guys next week.
Let's get rogue.